Get on the train before it leaves the station. The truth train is coming, gonna run them down, run them down.
Hello there, everybody. How you doing? Okay, we're here today talking about, Eagle Nation. You know, there's now a documentary kind of in the works called $50 Million Bullet. And today, I get to talk with, in this video, the actor who will be playing Michael Funk, or ML, as he's known by people close to him. Michael Funk and ML, it's basically referring to the same person, just to help clear up some of that confusion right from the get-go. You will hear people close to Michael Funk refer to him as ML. So both names are Michael Funk. Anyway, I'm talking to actor Dan Davies, who will be playing Michael Funk in the upcoming documentary. Now, I'm pretty excited about this, folks, because, and I think anybody who, you know, especially if you come to this channel because you want Stephen Avery, Brendan Dassey news and that sort of stuff, I think you should take an interest in this. At least a little bit. I don't expect you to get as well versed in it as you are with Avery Dassey, but I think it's a good thing to be aware of things like this. Okay, because it's other parts of Wisconsin, rural areas of Wisconsin, where things don't seem right, but it seems to be okay, and flies under the radar, you know, or they keep things swept under the rug type of thing. Because when you look at the Michael Funk situation, there is something just off about it. It doesn't seem right, you know. And then you'll even hear me refer to in this video the Michael Bell case. Those of you who don't know, I have some videos about Michael Bell. I will put the Michael Bell videos links down below. I will also put Dan Davies' links to Wikipedia link and his Facebook link in the description below. So look for those links there. Dan Davies was great to talk to. He's pretty fun to talk to. Good guy. He actually grew up there. You know, well, he actually lived there in Neenah, Wisconsin for a while. So he's kind of a local to the area. So it's really great. And I'll tell you what, I can't wait to see this guy with the Michael Funk wig on and all that sort of stuff. It's going to be pretty funny, pretty awesome. No, it's not going to be funny, but anyways, but I like Dan. He really wants to, you know, he's really concerned with the truth and getting at the truth and bringing, you know, everything in an accurate light, which is something I can appreciate. So, without further ado, we'll go ahead and get on to it. This is my chat with Dan Davies, who will be playing Michael Funk in the upcoming documentary, $50 Million. All right, hello everybody. We're here today with Dan Davies. Of course, we're talking about Michael Funk, Eagle Nation, in the upcoming documentary, the $50 Million Bullet, in which Dan Davies here will be playing ML, Michael Funk. Just so people don't get confused, he gets referred to as both. Some people, the people that are really close to him, tend to call him ML. And then obviously in the press he gets referred to as Michael Funk. So they are one and the same, so don't get confused. So we're here talking to Dan Davies today, who will be playing Michael Funk. And I wanted to ask, right off the bat, what brought you to be playing Michael Funk in this film?
Oh, that's a great question, Eric Jose. David Starr, who's the executive producer of Tickle Films, I have an event here in Appleton, Wisconsin, which is right next to Neenah. It's buttressed up against Neenah, and it's called the Film Forte. And as we were talking, and he met some people talking about the situation that went down in Neenah in 2015. I used to live in Neenah. I lived there for about 5-6 years. I knew of those guys because the bars that I would hang out at, a lot of the Eagle Nation, DC Eagles, Hell's Lovers guys were there, and they always would watch out for me. If I'm a Wisconsinite, Irish Indian, so I have a few drinks, they'd say, you know, Danny, you're not driving, are you? And I'd say, nope, I'm walking. I live 4 blocks away. So they always kind of kept an eye on me, which I really appreciated. And my dad actually owned a 1948 Indian. He lived in Neenah from about 1960 to about 61 or 62. And knew all those guys. And if you had a motorcycle back then, you knew all the other guys, you know, and especially if you had your leathers and all those things, and especially if it was a Harley or an Indian back in the day. So for me, it really strikes home. And I remember seeing ML2 out, and I always liked him, and I was proud of the fact that he was a good husband, good grandfather, just an overall good guy.
Yeah.
He had his own opinions I only knew him just briefly once or twice meeting him.
Right.
And then getting to know him, though, through reading about him and talking to people about him. He was a veteran, Air Force veteran of the tail end of the Vietnam War. He, did a lot of volunteer work, absolutely doted on his grandkids, and was a mechanic and loved what he did. And it's really kind of just a sad situation how everything went down.
Indeed. I know they created that shop because they were, not so enamored with working in the various factories or whatever jobs they could get there, and so it was kind of him and Steve, were living the dream, by starting that bike shop and that being their job is they get to deal with something they love, bikes, every day.
You bet.
So absolutely, yeah. So so how much, I guess, as a local, how much of a knowledge did you have of this, and how much are you having to research?
When in 2015, when because if you live in that neighborhood and you kind of have an acquaintance or kind of know these guys, and again, I didn't know any of them exceptionally well, but I knew of them and they knew of me in some respects. And so you have a connection that way too. And then you find out, wait a second, he was a hostage. He wasn't the hostage taker. Right. How the hell did he get shot? And the thing is, once you delve deeper, it really made me mad because of the fact that, there's a responsibility, and I know police officers will say this, it's just, one of those things where it's spur of the moment, but dear Lord, you can only, pull a trigger once and apologize afterwards, but then it's too late, and you have to do due diligence, stop on the ground, you'll be shot. You have to give that person, whoever is running out of that building, an opportunity to get on the ground, to be in a position so that they're, safe, and vice versa. And when those things don't happen, it really gets your Irish in a bundle, and you're like,
Indeed.
well, and you really want to do more research on what truly what went down, what are some of the backstories on these things, and having with David Starr from Tickle Films and Kay Reitz and Donna Frankart, who worked as one of the coroners a number of years ago in Winnebago County. I mean, having these people here as resources, and having other people that have worked doing research for Eagle Nation to try to find out what truly was the background of why ML was killed.
Something I was going to bring up because, you talk about the cops saying, oh, it's, in the spur of the moment and everything. It's like, yes, but when you see how much contact Hoffer and Michael had, there's a lot. I mean, literally 3 months previous to Hoffer shooting Michael, he was at the counter at Eagle Nation. I've seen a video of Mike on the phone saying, oh, yeah, I got an officer Hoffer here. So you're seeing it, they're having face-to-face contact 3 months previous to this. It's like, it's hard for me to believe Hoffer didn't know who he was shooting.
And one of the things too, like when I'd be out, like years ago, out in Neenah and just having a few drinks and whatever, the one thing about ML was he was unique looking enough that he always had these, I always called him glass, and I'm not disparaging his fashion or anything like that, but he always had these glasses that looked like they were kind of essentially from the 70s, and and the long hair and the mustache and beard. He was very memorable looking.
Right.
There wasn't, you would see him and you wouldn't forget him. You know what I mean? Right. So obviously when he's running out, a lot of those police officers knew who the hell he was because they also did, they worked with the PD. They worked hand in glove on cases prior. There was a closeness between them, and I don't understand when you see him, you wouldn't forget him. So if you've got a gun on him, you would really be concentrating on what he looks like. But it still boggles my mind.
It is, and one of the main focuses here is really the fact that Hoffer was compromised by being hit. He was compromised.
Yeah.
The funny thing is, after recently speaking to an investigator that worked for one of Flatoff's attorneys.
Yeah.
This person was telling me how they found a high caliber casing down the stairway, down in the basement, that didn't match any guns that they found at the bike shop. So that led me to go, well, then that's most likely a shell from one of the, officers' high caliber weapons that they were bringing in. And then it got me thinking, did Hoffer get hit by friendly fire? In the helmet. It kind of got me thinking that way, right?
Yeah.
Because you got to think of it. Hoffer's third guy back.
Yeah.
How would, obviously Flatoff wasn't hitting water if he fell out of a boat, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's hard for me to believe, Flatoff hit Hoffer from that distance, that maybe one of the officers who was tumbling down the stairs inadvertently hit the trigger, and maybe that's what hit his helmet. So there's a lot of interesting wrinkles it comes to this case, and it's just like, but something's not right.
There's something, that's the thing about it is, and for me as an actor, what you really, really try to do is portray first of all, portray the person with dignity, portray him as he is as a human being. And I really, really, really want to get to know his friends and extended family better, so that I can do him justice and do him as an homage to him. What's that?
Ryan Morrison?
No, I'm just starting to get to know, so my first meeting will be in a couple of weeks, actually, with a lot of these guys.
Right
so so when David had seen a film that I did at the Film Forte, and Donna Frankart was there, and they said, well, Dan, we'd really want you to be involved with this film. And I said, boy, you're hitting home with this film, because as an actor, you truly want harsh light to be shown on the truth. And sometimes the truth is like an onion. There are many, many layers to it. Yeah. And the more you get into it, something doesn't fully sit right with me. It's just, and when I read it in 2000, I just was like very disturbed by it. I'm like, wow. And I know another thing too, here in northern Wisconsin, we don't have the gang shootings. We don't have, a lot of these SWAT guys don't have an opportunity. Gee whiz, if you're in Milwaukee or Chicago, there's an opportunity for you guys to be every weekend, to be in a SWAT situation. Not here. We have one of the lowest, the lowest crime rates in the United States. So again, it's not an everyday occurrence that the SWAT comes out. It's probably a couple times a year, maybe. I don't even know if it's that amount of times. But the thing is, it's like, boy, if you know a guy that's coming out and you recognize him, at least give him the opportunity to say, get the F down now, hit the ground, stop.
I agree.
Give him that opportunity where all of them are screaming.
If at least 2 seconds before shooting he had hollered some kind of warning, just 2 seconds before, he would have seen whether or not somebody was going to start turning quicker, or whether they were going to start going down.
You bet. So,
and that would have been the telltale sign right there.
The moment they start hitting the ground, you just
back off the trigger. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. And then for him, there's varying reports about ML being on the sidewalk for up to an hour. It's like bleeding to death, and it's just like, what the hell? I don't. We have to, with police officers today. Now there's so many egregious things that happen that they're pretty much, they don't have any type of a recourse. You don't have a recourse anymore when 99% of all of the shootings that a police officer does to a person, an innocent, 99% of those never go to trial. And when they do, 99% of them, the police officers are exonerated. Right. So there's something like wrong with that too. You have to have a responsibility if you're. And the thing is, my brother is a deputy up in Brown County. I love the fact that, and I have a lot of respect for police officers. I truly do. But the training has to be upped a little bit more, and there's something more to be said about that. But anyway,
I feel it goes off the rails as it moves up the chain. See, I'm with you. I maybe I want to believe this, but I do believe 95% of these gentlemen out there in the squad cars patrolling our streets, and they're all good guys.
Yeah.
They just
Yeah.
want to come to work, do their
Yep.
job, not
Yep.
have anything eventful. They don't want to get hurt
Yep.
or shot or anything like
Yep.
that. They don't want to have to hurt or shoot anybody themselves. And then they want to go home to their families,
Yep.
go to baseball practice
Yep.
and ballet and
Yep.
all that. That's what they want. I believe that.
Yeah.
What
Yeah.
I think happens is as it moves up the chain, you start getting to where the DAs and the prosecutors and those guys start getting involved, and
Yeah.
that's where things start to get twisted.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
so it's a criminal justice issue for me.
Yeah.
And if you knew my background over here, Eric Jose, I started my channel that you're on right now is, Eric Jose on Making a Murderer. I started with Stephen Avery and Brendan Dassey. So. And I got into Michael Funk because I was expanding. I was going, is there more of this obvious BS going on with the higher ups in Wisconsin? Got me to Neenah and Eagle Nation. And then somebody made me aware of Michael Bell, which is another case, that's just tragic. His son was basically killed by officers in his own driveway.
Yeah.
And it's just like, woof,
Yeah.
So I started looking into these things, and that's, where I'm trying to draw together this kind of thread. That there's this kind of a don't ask, don't tell, good old boys network kind of thing going on in the criminal justice system there in Wisconsin. It's a little scary.
It is. The thin blue line, and they're protecting each other, and they're brothers in arms. And I understand
and
that.
I understand that most of the time as well.
Most of the time. But when it comes to something where somebody gets killed because of your actions, you really have to have almost like a third party. And it's not police officers investigating other police officers because, again, those are brothers in arms. So a lot of times they'll have the Neenah PD, won't have the Neenah PD look into their internal stuff. They'll have somebody else from Green Bay or Milwaukee or wherever.
Actually, since Michael Bell, they aren't allowed to investigate their own officer-involved shootings anymore. It actually does have to be a separate law enforcement agency now. But as you were saying... they're still brothers of the badge or brothers in arms.
You bet. So. And so if you had an actual impartial group of people that are wide-ranging from lawyers to whoever and everybody in between that actually will look at it in a very harsh light and just and also too, you might want to have somebody who is ex-police officer on that group that says these are some of the things that you guys have to know about. Because but the thing is, when it's other police officers investigating other police officers or internally, there's this, it's like, it's the same thing with my brothers and sisters. If I'm going to judge them harshly on something that they did, and I never would, and they don't get me wrong. But if I'm doing it, it's going to be, I'm going to give them a break. I'm going to say, no worries.
Right.
You had a few beers and you threw a punch at me. And that's my little sister, throwing a punch at me.
Right. There's a certain camaraderie.
There's like, hey, no worries. We just had a few beers, no worries. But if somebody else looked at it, they might judge it differently. So somebody who is dispassionate and not more objective, might look at it differently. But anyway, I don't know if that's a good analogy or not. But once you get deeper into it as an actor, you really, really want the truth. I always say the truth will set us free. The Bible talks about that, and it's so important for people to see the true story, the ever widening story and the backstory to a lot of these things. And what's odd about even the Stephen Avery stuff, I knew that didn't in my mind when that happened. And I'm from Wisconsin. I'm 40 minutes away. So I was like, wait a second. He just got out of jail and he spent all these years in solitary confinement. And then within 6 months, he's doing this again. I go, wait a second. He also has a $36 million lawsuit again. Wait a second. Just one of those things. And it's just like, come on, guys.
Yeah, it is exactly that. And when you look into the case, it even gets worse and worse than what you saw in Making a Murderer. It's the exact opposite of what Ken Kratz would have everybody believe. If you start looking into this more, you start to find more than what they put in the documentary. And with all news coming out, and I want to see this happen for Eagle Nation too. But with all the news that continues to come out, it continues to fall against, not in favor of the state. So they've recently had to admit that they gave bones back to the family, and the thing is that these bones they gave back were not from on the Avery property where they claimed that this whole thing happened, but it was from 2 properties away.
Wow.
And so Zellner's like going, wait a second, there's a problem, guys, because look, Stephen Avery wouldn't, if he burned her there, wouldn't have moved her bones to his own doorstep. So this is a problem. So now the state's saying, oh no, we gave the Hallbucks animal bones.
You know,
Are you
it's
kidding me?
I know. And
Animal bones?
Yeah, there's just so many things that, and being in that position, you know, as a police officer, and I understand that. I don't understand the pressures. I don't even pretend to know the pressures of what goes on in their daily lives. And as I wouldn't want to be a police officer, to be honest with you, because they see people at their worst 99% of the time.
Worst common denominator a lot of the time, right?
Yeah, and a lot of those guys, I think, suffer from some sort of PTSD. I think mental health should be a bigger issue amongst police departments with their clinical psychologists or therapists that are on staff that help these guys, because man, if you see something, God forbid, I'd never want to see a car wreck where someone has been decapitated or whatever, like holy smokes. And so I give these guys a lot of credit, but the thing is, the training has to be better. They have to have a therapist, I think, on staff, but they can't be above the law. If something happens, you know, and you pull that trigger, you're still responsible. There should be some responsibility behind it, you know.
It's absolutely, I mean, especially when it happens under, you know, fishy circumstances, because I mean, honestly, when this all comes down to it, right, we all want to think that if we find ourselves in a hostage situation someday, that if we escape that situation, that we're not going to get run over by the cavalry. We all want to believe that. We all want to believe that the cavalry is going to be coming up there going, oh, here, let us help you and get you away from this dangerous situation. That's what we want to hope the cavalry is going to be doing. So,
not being the victims of, you know, and not being the bad guys. And I think, too, I think I lost you.
Oh. I still see you, and I can
okay,
still hear you.
Good. Okay. It's one of those things. If you're in a situation, in that you want to feel safe enough, like you're in an unsafe situation to begin with. A man has a gun on you and he's threatening to kill you. That's a very unsafe, uncomfortable position. Now you're hoping and praying that when the SWAT and the cavalry comes in to save you, that you're going to be safe, that you're going to be taken care of. And when that doesn't happen, it really erodes a lot of people's faith in the police, in that, you know, what our taxes pay for, you know. And, you know, it is tragic on many, many levels, but, you know, one of these things, what I can do with ML and what I can do with Michael Funk is I really, truly want people to see him warts and all, and see the good parts about him, and see that he volunteered, he was a good husband and a good grandfather, and was a Vietnam vet and an Air Force veteran, and honorably discharged, and worked hard and volunteered and did all these great things. And, you know, to do him respect and to do him homage and to do him where people that know him will feel like the justice has been served, the truth has been served, and you did a fine job with Michael. That would be amazing.
Yeah, that sounds like a great thing. I mean, obviously people out in the wider world do respect a balanced approach. It's something I try to do the best I can. Obviously, I'm human and I'm flawed and I have opinions. But for the most part, I generally try to curb that kind of stuff when I'm reporting things, because I know how I like my news. And so I'm reporting to people who are like me, I guess, is when it comes down to it. And it sounds a lot like your approach to Michael Funk and your acting method too. So
and it's the only way that you could be fully truthful, you know, in that moment, is to know as much about that person as humanly possible, and to really showcase that in a truthful manner. And that's what actors should do. It's very difficult to actually perform or to play a role of somebody who was living or is living and people still know them real well. It's very, very difficult, because people are going to say, well, Michael never, talked with his hands as much,
Oh,
or whatever,
right.
they'll be very, but then
Right.
all I want to do is really show the essence of who he
Yeah.
was, and
Right.
show, the good parts, and,
Warts
I
and
think,
all, as you
yeah,
say.
you
So.
bet, warts and all. And I think it's funny because as I was reading more about him, people would say, he was a loyal, super loyal man,
Right.
and
That's
that's
what I've
amazing.
heard
You bet,
over and
super,
over.
super loyal. But then they would always like preface it with, well, he was a little bit opinionated,
Yeah.
So well, there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah. No worries.
They would say that, but then they would temper it with, but
Right.
the bottom line is he was very, very loyal, and he expected that sort of loyalty
Right.
as well from people, which you should. If you're
Yeah. Yeah.
loyal to people, you should expect that from other
Right.
people. So I'm very excited about this. I'm very excited about this role.
Yeah.
It's going to be an honor. I mean,
Yeah.
really, to the more I get into it and the more I find out about this, and again, for a film to showcase the full spectrum story, the whole broad story, not just a story that's through a microscope, through our government entities or the police department or whatever,
Right.
but to showcase a full
Yeah.
backstory and a full story for people, then they can kind of make up their own minds on,
Right.
you know, the whole case and the whole situation that unfolded.
Right. Now, I do intend to ask later on today, Mr. Starr, about his interest in criminal justice, but I want to ask you about, do you have any real criminal justice background at all, in terms of stuff? And then also, do your researchers or the people researching on this film, are they planning to contact any of the law enforcement agencies involved in this?
Yeah, so those are good questions. I'll give you a little bit of background on who I am. One of my degrees from University of Wisconsin, La Crosse, it's part of the University of Wisconsin system, is political science. And so I've got a little bit of background on political science and our government and things like that. And it's always interested me. But I'm also the product of, and I'm not ashamed to say this, and my dad is a felon. My dad served in a maximum security federal penitentiary. He had a 12-year sentence, and he was MR'd, mandatorily released after about 8 or 9 years. And I mean, these places were hardcore places.
Right.
And then he was in Milan, Michigan, the MCC in Chicago, and El Reno, Oklahoma, where Timothy McVeigh was at. So he hung with people that were the baddest of the bad mob
Right.
guys, the mafioso
Right.
guys. So for me, I'm not ashamed of that. A lot of times we don't talk about it in my family, but I'm not ashamed of it. He came out in 1993. He's 82 years old. He's completely rehabilitated, thank God.
That's good to hear.
Yeah, and I'm very proud of him for that. Now he's
Right
having
on.
some dementia issues and whatever, but he's a real good guy. And so me, for that background, when you have somebody that's very close to you, that's in and out of jails and prisons,
Right.
because that wasn't the first time he was arrested, you start to learn about the system.
Yeah.
You really want to
You can't
get.
help it, right?
You can't help it. You want to learn about it, and yeah, you really can't help it. And you want to learn about as much as you can about that, because you love your dad.
Yeah.
Even if he's a complete F up, you still love him.
Right.
And you want to know exactly. And then the worst thing, when I was in college, these dumbass professors would say, well, you know something, 99% of the time you're going to end up like your parents. And I'm like, F you, son of a bitch. I could swear, right? Or no? Or
Yeah,
should I?
it's
Okay.
fine. It's fine.
Okay. Yeah. So, I'm like, fuck you, and it got me really pissed off. I'm like, no,
Sure.
I mean, and what now, my brothers and sisters, all of us, they're all college educated and they're all successful in their own ways,
Right on.
from being good, employees, to being good people, to being good parents, to being good all kinds of things. So they're all
Right.
successful. So I was like, F you.
Yeah.
Like, none of my brothers and sisters and I fell in the same bad habits that my dad had. So,
Right.
but having said that, you want to learn as much as you can about the justice system.
Yeah.
And, it's so that you're kind of privy to understand even the terminology. When
Yeah.
you say MR'd, that's mandatorily released, but there's a lot of their own verbiage that they use and vocabulary that they use. So for me, that's kind of where I'm coming from.
Yeah.
From that perspective, and I'm not a lawyer, and I don't have obviously a law degree or anything like that, but it's been an interest of mine for years.
Which is, it's definitely enough to make. Hey, that's what most of us armchair detectives, as we call ourselves, that's essentially our background. I know, 3 years ago I watched Making a Murderer, the first series, in January of 2016.
Yep.
And since then, I've had 2 jobs: my normal job that I was working prior to Making a Murderer, and now my other job that I do when I get home from work. So it's like, and that's really what it's been like for the last 3 years,
and it's true. It's like, if you have a passion for it, and people that get into that type of, research, they have a passion for the truth as well. And it egregious us when something happens where deep down in your heart of hearts that something smells bad in Denmark or whatever, Shakespeare said. Something stinks in Denmark or whatever, but those are the type of people that have a passion for the truth, and you're the type of person that says, well, geez, this sounds amazingly horrible and egregious, let me do my own research, let me find out. And people that have that good heart and have that good truth in their heart and souls want to know the truth.
Yes.
We're designed to know the truth. We're designed by God to know the truth. And you can't come up to somebody and say 1 + 1 = 3. You'll say no. I've done my research. I know for a fact 1 + 1 = 2.
Right.
We're designed to
Once
find.
Once we sniff BS, we
you bet
tend to not forget about it or let it go.
You can't, and a good person won't let it go.
Right.
So what you're doing is noble, man. I mean, it's awesome. It has to be out there. We have to shed light on these things, and
I'm
so
trying
that people
to create an army as well. I got a lot of people that are getting out on YouTube and speaking out now. It's great. It's awesome. It fills me up when I see a new person getting on YouTube.
You bet.
And stuff like that. So it's great. It's been absolutely great to have you on. I wanted to go ahead and talk about, you guys have an event coming up soon that you maybe want to talk about?
Yeah, it is in mid-November. Let's see, I think it's November.
I think I heard the 17th.
17th, yes, thank you.
Is that right? Okay.
Yes, that is correct. So November 17th, we're having an open interview at Eagle Nation Cycles, and it might, or Cycle Shop. It might actually be in a bigger venue, depending on how many media we get, and it's already starting to get real big. Starting with you, man. Thank you again.
Absolutely.
But we'll hopefully have it at Eagle Nation. But if it's elsewhere to fit the people that we're going to have, but it's open to media, online and otherwise, terrestrial and TV, radio, and newspapers, to really kind of make the splash in the announcement of when the film will start filming and kind of some timelines and who's involved and all these great things. And there's so many people that want to see this story made in a truthful fashion. I say this all the time, and I've said it probably 50 times in this interview. Truth. The truth has to be tantamount and paramount to getting this word out there. So it's like the engine that's driving our train. So the 17th in Neenah, Wisconsin, at Eagle Nation, which I'm almost certain it'll still be there, but they might get a bigger venue. And that's just open to any media, online or otherwise, to get as much, traction that we can with this project.
And then, and back to one other question I had asked. You guys have plans to speak to the law enforcement agencies?
Oh, yeah. Now, having said that, so Donna Frankart, we have people already, and there's some people, I'm not sure if I can mention their names yet, per se, just because of the fact that it's all kind of coming. And it's still fluid and still kind of coming together. But we do have some ex-police officers, and I'm almost certain that they will extend out that invitation to the Neenah PD, because that's only fair too. Yeah, that's fair. That they have to get. You bet.
I'd love to see Hoffer get in front of one of your cameras personally.
Yeah. Really, it's fair, at least for them to say, this is what I saw and this is what I envision, and whatever. So I'm almost certain they will extend out that invitation. But just, remember Stephen Avery. How many of the police officers were interviewed for that, for Making of a Murderer?
Yeah. With the 85 case, quite a few. Once the dirty dealing had been figured out. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So you want to get that other side, you can't just have one side of the story, you have to have both. So yes. I think they're almost certain that they will extend it out to, and hopefully to the DA and the judge and everybody that was part of the lawsuit and the original lawsuit and the wrongful death lawsuit, that they have an opportunity. And gosh darn it, you do have an opportunity as a publicly paid employee, as you have an you have a right, you have a obligation to explain yourself, because I always tell people when someone pulls you over, they should always treat you with respect, because this is, my brother talks about this too. He said, first of all, they pay me, not the other way around. Mm-hmm. You guys have your own jobs. My taxes don't pay for you doing a film, Dan, in Africa or in Europe and LA, but vice versa. Your taxes pay for my salary, so I'm going to treat you like a boss. Now that's important. If a police officer who's trained, every single person that you're in contact with, treat them with respect. Use their name, and vice versa. And it's a two-way street, obviously. But remember, any one of those people that you're picking up or talking to, you're talking to your boss, and treat them with that respect. And vice versa, the person who is being talked to from the police officer should show respect too. Call him by his first name. Call him by, Mr. Johnson. Call him sir. Call him officer. Right. But it's a two-way street. You have to do that. And
respect's always a two-way street, folks. That's a good tip.
So hopefully, I'm making it kind of long-winded.
No worries.
And I'm a little bit hungover.
Oh, no worries.
So welcome to Wisconsin.
What were you doing last night?
Having a good time.
Wisconsin.
Having
Drunkest
some wine.
state in the union.
And actually, my city here in Appleton, which is right next to Neenah. Neenah is a mile or two away. I live. We were considered the drunkest city in the U.S.
Right. I saw back in 2016. I saw an article that came out where a poll was done, and like 18 of the 20 drunkest cities in America were in Wisconsin.
And it's crazy. It's just part of our culture,
It definitely is.
It's one of those one of the few cultures where after every Sunday when growing up after church, what did you do? You went to have Bloody Marys, or went to a bar, or went to and it was just one of those things. It's just part of who we are as a people of Wisconsin, and am I proud of it? Kind of, yeah.
Yeah, Hey, look, when we were there in June, my buddy from Scotland flew down there for a rally for Stephen and Brendan. He was right at home, man.
Oh,
he was like,
Scottish people
knocking him back.
Yeah, it's crazy. Yeah, he just absolutely loves it. And the thing is, I always tell people, be safe about it. If you're gonna be drinking, don't drive. If you're gonna be drinking, and if you can't handle it and you get
Uber.
Pissed off and mad, then don't effing drink. Just don't. If you're Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde when you drink, don't. And be the type of person when you're drinking, do it safely. Don't drive. But be the type of person that has a few drinks and you start feeling good about yourself and about your fellow man. And you come up to your friends and you hug them and say, man, I appreciate you and I love you. And if that's what alcohol can do, I think that's a wonderful thing. Now, conversely, if it's not doing that, then don't drink.
Yeah. Well, my friend started teaching all the ladies how to do Scottish dances. He was teaching them all the steps. It was great. It was hilarious. There's a video. I'll send you a link to it.
Oh, that's awesome. You had him on the show one time, didn't you? He's the bigger guy. He's the dude from Scotland.
He's got the gray and black kind of beard.
Yep.
He's got the American flag behind him and the Belgian flag behind him.
So. Yep. I saw that. He's a good guy. Yeah, he's very, very funny. That's a good guy. Oh, but awesome.
So, all right. Well, we are all looking forward to this project. I'm going to see if I can maybe get one member of the Wrecking Crew. That's my little research community that's kind of attached to me since Making a Murderer 2 came out. But I'm going to see if I can get Linda and her friend Wanda to maybe come and make that event on the 17th and be kind of maybe some correspondence for me. So that would be great. We can
that would be great too.
Little fun with it.
And Eric Jose, we can also set up some sort of either Skype or video that we should be shooting so that you can have it as well, and some of the online people
Sure.
can have it as
Some
well.
little tidbits of little on the scene stuff, but not too,
Yeah.
not giving away anything you guys don't want to give away, but maybe just some little tidbits to whet people's appetites. That'd be awesome.
You bet. You
Yeah.
bet. No, it's all good, and it's gonna. There's a lot of hard work ahead of us, from here on in. But, once you saddle your hitch your wagon to the truth, that helps.
Yes, absolutely. So, all right. Well, it's been great talking to you, Dan.
Okay, man. Take care. Be
right.
safe in California, dude. I don't want earthquakes or fires or grass, plagues or whatever the hell you guys
Fires
have.
are a really bothering thing right now, but
man.
those fires they get crazy. Hey, everything dries out in the summer. You can't help it.
You bet.
So-
Just be safe, man. God bless you. Keep
All right.
keep pushing the truth.
You too, man.
Keep pushing the truth. Okay, take
All
care.
right, so that was my chat with Dan Davies. So, I think he's going to do a great job as Michael Funk. I think being from the area, he's going to capture that, that area in his acting style. I think he's a good choice. I think he was a pleasure to talk to. And you heard that we may get some little exclusive little teaser footage and stuff from the little event they're doing on the 17th. And I do hope maybe that Linda and Wanda can find the time and the ability to go and check this out. Maybe I can help with that. I'll be talking with Linda as soon as I can. I've just been so busy with these interviews and getting ready for them. I haven't had a chance to talk to her just yet. But I'm thinking, maybe hopefully they can. Maybe even Jamie can break away for that weekend. Maybe he can tag along and I can get all three of them over there. That would be awesome. Hopefully, Anyway, but I would like to make as much noise around this as possible. I think this documentary is going to be very interesting. I'd like a lot of people to see it. And so you guys can look forward to later today. I will be talking to the producer of the film at Tickle Films, and that is David Starr. We'll be speaking with him later today to talk more about the film. And like I said, we just talked with Dan Davies, the actor who will be playing Michael Funk. Everybody look for the video later today with David Starr, the producer. And if you haven't already, please hit subscribe.